Hey everybody, I'm Jack Reeder with Future Pastimes. I'm a designer on Dune-themed games and expansions. In this video, I wanted to go over something that I started working on a couple of years ago, and it is an advanced battle wheel for Dune. It's just kind of, at this point, a thinking out loud thing as the Kwisatz Haderach edition comes closer, and we have the possibility of a better battle wheel design. Now, this is a very crudely constructed cardboard prototype. It's not flashy at all, but let's take a look at it because there's some concepts here that I think are interesting, and I would like to explore if an advanced battle wheel or a better battle wheel is developed. So this is the design here. It's definitely bigger than what we have, and it doesn't necessarily need to be this big. This is just what I had to work with. Now on this side, it's going to look pretty familiar because it's got the slot here for your leader disc. It's got the wheel for you to dial, but as you can see, it's got increments there for advanced spice. So you've got the 2, and in between the 2 and 3, it says 2.5. So currently your battle wheels, if you're doing half increments, which you may have to do in advanced because your forces don't count at full strength, you just would have, there would be nothing in between the 2 and the 3. You'd have to just be like, imagine it's a 2.5. So I think at the minimum, if this system is still in place and we haven't replaced it with something else, then we would want to have half increments in between. But over on this side, you'll see that there is a spice area. This one, it clearly says it's your force strength. So that's important because this is we're talking about the forces. So let's say in our example, we have 5 forces here. And in advanced, if you've dialed a 2, currently to get to 2, that would be 4 forces. But it depends on how much spice you're spending. So here, you'd have another dial for your spice. So in this case, if I've dialed 2 spice, then that's 2 forces counting at full strength. And what if I've dialed the 2, then out of those 5 forces, 3 are going to be left behind. But if let's say I've dialed a 2.5, in that case, if it's 2 at full strength, then I've actually I'm going to lose 3 forces here. So I don't know that necessarily helps out with calculating, but what it does do is it just makes it less unwieldy. So the other thing is, let's say that you've got, some cards in your battle plan. So here I've got harass and withdraw. What we've got here in the bottom is a little slot that holds the cards. And that's really what I was getting at here was I want to have something that's a little less unwieldy. Because right now with the normal battle wheels, you're holding your leader disc in. The leader disc isn't necessarily going to be snug, so you're kind of holding that down. You're holding your treachery cards. And if you're having to spend spice, you have spice in your hand as well. And it's just a little bit too much. So we don't necessarily need a whole nother dial off to the side. And maybe by making it more compact, we have maybe a dial within the dial for spice. And so as you can see, this is called wheels within wheels. And maybe a true wheel within the wheel or another thing. So I've got like I have civilization, and that has some dials in it as well. And it's actually got a couple of things that you can dial. So it's actually a pretty easy design to incorporate. But I like the idea of holding the cards so that it's just easier for you to manage when you're making your battle plan. And it would be easy enough to have, 3 cards in there, no problem. I think we would want to have clearly labeled slots, though, much like the Dune Conquest wheels have a weapon slot and a defense slot. And maybe that would precipitate clarification on the Atreides battle prescience advantage, where they're actually seeing the slot and not a weapon or defense per se, which would make it a little more powerful. So the Dune Conquest version of the Atreides advantage is more powerful because there are other cards, non-weapons, non-defenses, that aren't worthless cards that you would play in lieu of a weapon or defense. And that Atreides does get to see what that card is, which I think is a better version of it. Currently, the faction sheet in Advanced Dune, or in Full Dune, the 2019 edition of the classic Dune game, it specifies they can see a weapon or they can see a defense, not the card that is played in lieu of it. So that is on there. Now, because I had the wider design, I also had come up with this idea. You can see it's a special effect there, once per game. So I came up with these tokens, that one for each faction with 2 possible effects that you could put in there, and it's a once per game thing. There may be ways that you unlock those or get those. It's not really an official thing that was designed. It was just like, what can we do with this? It may be possible to still have something like that in a more compact version of this. So I have there's a link in the description to the review of the Etsy battle wheel that I recently did. And that one has a similar concept here for a way to hold the cards. It's a little bit too small. I think that for a fancier battle wheel that we could possibly get in the Kwisatz Haderach edition, I think we want to go a little bit bigger. The classic Dune, the 1979 Dune, those wheels are bigger than the ones in the 2019 edition, not by a huge margin. The leader discs were bigger too. Those don't necessarily need to be bigger. I think the ones that we have are a pretty good size. But I think if we have a bigger wheel, we have more possibilities for special effect, possibly, or another dial or some other switch that lets you know how much spice you're dialing, or whatever that effect will be. So that's all I wanted to do. Just wanted to cover this. I was working on the possibility of a wheel that would help do the calculation here. It's very convoluted, mostly because not all the factions work the same way. You've got the Emperor with their Sardaukar, and you've got the Ixians with their cyborgs, which is an advantage they have in basic, whereas Sardaukar and Fedaykin are advanced. But the Fremen don't need any spice to count full strength. And then having to do a thing where you've got some normal forces, some Sardaukar, and some way to calculate it. Now, somebody who has been playtesting with us has come up with a wheel that would do it, but it's probably too involved to be part of the official expansion. I'll let him share that design on his own time if he so is inclined. But I didn't think it was going to be practical enough to have in there, even though it did work. Maybe there's a way to design it that is a little more user-friendly, or maybe the answer is to find a more elegant way to do spice dialing so that it is much easier to compute, because that is a divisive element for the Dune community, or people who are not really in the Dune community because of it, or they just haven't advanced beyond basic. There's so many people that have been trying to come up with a way to have all of the advanced features of the Dune game without having to do spice dialing. And, you know, there's reasons why it does add an interesting X factor, which I've talked about in other videos, but currently the engineering eludes me, but I did want to try to find some way to just streamline some of the action, at least to make it less unwieldy. It's a great, elegant system, especially basic combat, but even in those cases where you're trying to hold on to your cards and everything else, it could be a little bit better. So I think that we deserve a very fancy battle wheel, and maybe we'll get one. I don't think it's going to be this necessarily, but I think it's good to get the conversation going. So if you have thoughts or ideas, or if you've seen things, be sure to let me know in the comments. There's another battle wheel in Etsy, and I mentioned that in my other review. A similar sort of thing to this. It's got a sort of a kidney pool shape to it that I don't know if that necessarily works, but I like the direction that they're going and trying to think outside of the box. So there you have it. That's it for this one, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we will see you again soon.